Welcome to Orison. And in this experience, in 3.14 Hem, I am going to go through it, hopefully, with better graphics. So, one of the things I seem to be getting comments on is that the clouds deserve to be on high. And if I'm going to do that, I might as well do high for the rest of things. And let's see how fast that breaks everything. Just may not. Who knows? I have promised soon there will be a lighting video. I'm still trying to line up some collab work on that, or at least a guest host. It'll kind of weigh in on a couple things. Well, stay tuned. Stay tuned on that front. Also, I am working to get a video that's supposed to be a surprise video about the Gladiator. That was going to be one of the videos that I was working on. It's like another underdog, if you will, like the 600i. You know, I feel I would argue a ship that deserves more attention, that does not get it. I think, especially with the changes that are happening, it's a pretty exciting ship, especially when it can fire all four of its size 5 torpedoes at the same time. It has other interesting dynamics with smaller missiles, and it also has a turret that can even be fitted with a tractor beam, or a small amount of cargo can be fitted into its turret areas. So it's kind of an interesting ship, and there's one of the biggest problems with that video was a lot of the discussion points for the community side of things were basically non-existent. But okay, why are we all here? Probably when you clicked on this video, it probably had a different name, and namely, I want to talk about things that the top 5 things that are not, I said the word not, good about Orison. Things that maybe are carried over from other landing sites, things that are not exactly ideal, whether it's a new issue or an old issue, as I look at textures that are not rendering correctly at the other end of the green circle, up in the ceiling area, right up there. And I feel like I deserve to mention that I just put everything on high. I am running a RTX 2080. My CPU is a little old. It's an i7700K. It's overclocked. 32 gigs of RAM with a 12 gig paging file on top of that 32 gigs. So when I say that, you know, I like to consider myself an average player, maybe slightly above average in some things and then lower average on others, I think that's a fair argument. I know that there's a push right now for having 6 real cores, at least for what's ideal for Orison and other newer locations like New Babbage and Orison. But we're not all there yet. So, out of the top 5 things that I would say that Orison is not good at, things that I don't like about Orison, I would say that number 1 is this focus on everything that is not mission critical. These trees are beautiful. They really are. The lightning bug effect and everything else, the energy of these little lights going out around it, whether they're alive or not, is really cool. The clouds are really neat. I'm one of the few people that feels the clouds were fine even on medium settings, and on high settings, they're looking great. One of my main gripes is, this was like one of the main things that was exciting to me, was the storm walls, the actual storm walls, not a statue, not a nice fountain, and a very interesting ironwork effect in the behind it that's supposed to simulate a splash from the storm wall moving through the water. That's all very cool. I want
Hey,
the real
never
storm
trust a
walls.
girl named Laura. Just telling you right now.
Because, plain and simple. Hang on one sec. Sorry about that. If anything is said, I do not appreciate it either way or like it and whatnot. I just can't get away from sometimes some of this kind of stuff. Because the PTU is focused, it's testing on the Orison landing zone and Crusader in general, on top of the Crusader landing zone, a lot of players are centralized here. Because there's a lot of players here, you will see a lot of discussions over voice over IP. So I don't know those people, but they're nearby chatting away. Anyway, so number one on my list would be the fact that the storm walls did not make it into 3.14 because they mean more to me than just the storm walls. Don't get me wrong, they're cool. They had a tour already set up for them, and they had to cancel the damn tour because they weren't ready. And I can't help but wonder, were they not ready because they were so busy focusing on nailing the aesthetics and nailing the clouds? Jesus, the clouds. I've heard so many things about the clouds. I've seen patch note after patch note. Developers talking about how they scrutinize these clouds. They're clouds. At some point, we all have to step back and think realistically about this, that the clouds are going to be iterative, which means they're going to take time. The first go around, the clouds are not going to be Microsoft Flight Simulator amazing clouds, and they never were meant to be. They're on an alien world. They're on an amazing new place. And I know the clouds have to look okay, but that's all they have to do right now. I was more excited about the storm walls because these things were going to symbolize to me a major turning point in the game being alive. By having storm walls, a live, non-humanoid creature moving around on its own, doing its own thing, that means that we have finally have wildlife AI in the game, and we have wildlife in general in the game, and it's an incredible kind of wildlife. I can think of so many content creators. I can think of so many players that want experiences like this, and I see the storm walls as a thing to come. And even better, I thought the storm walls were going to make it because I said to some org mates just a few weeks ago, I was saying, the storm walls are a perfect tie-in. Even though they're a complex creature that's going to, fly around or something, you could technically code them to have a little zone that's relatively close to Crusader, but not right on top of it. Sorry, in Crusader, but relatively close to Orison, but not right on top of it. And you don't need many of them for them to be amazing. Because it's such a big creature, you could turn around and say they're immensely territorial, and only during mating season do they go near each other. And mating season's only every 5 years or something. Just like those giant tortoises and whatnot you see at the zoo. Like, there's not many of them, and they rarely ever breed. You could do something like that. And because the game is set up in such a way, every little asset matters. It has to be tracked. And there's this whole new system they're trying to roll out with entity graphing and marking everything down on this global system that's going to be system-wide and then universe-wide or some crazy nonsense. These are the perfect thing to start with and just say, look, there's going to be 5 storm walls just swimming around in the soup of the clouds. That's it. In fact, the other bizarre thing is these Atlas barges, which are, don't get me wrong, they're cool. They really are very cool. And they seem to be slightly different, all of them. When I've flown up to some of them, the tops are empty. And I have yet to get the doors to work, but I've seen other people who have managed to get the doors to function, and they claim there's functioning elevators on some of them. I've been on 3 barges so far. Out of 2 of them, there was cargo all over the top, but enough space I could still land the Connie. And on one of the other barges, I landed a 325A on top, no problem, because it was nearly empty of cargo. these barges seem to be different, each one. And they seem to have, I'm guessing, some type of process, i.e., they're moving cargo from point to point. They're doing administrative tasks for Crusader Industries. I don't know. And they said already that they're trying to release FPS gameplay and missions on those barges. Like you'll go deliver things to those barges or take things away from them, move them around. As in move items off of it, not actually get to pilot the barge, which, by the way, would be really cool, but it's not going to happen. Right now, at least. So that's the number one thing that really kind of let me down, was the fact the storm walls, a promised feature, did not really make it. It's a shame. Number two on my list of things that really kind of didn't make it in Orison, or, not in 3.14, is the way they handled Orison General. So, for those that don't know or haven't seen my PTU adventures, I think chapter 2, Orison General, I'm going to run around, by the way. I'm going to break immersion a little bit just to kind of speed this up without having to do heavy editing. I'm trying to make this relatively talk and walk video, but obviously I value your time. If we're all going to hang out, we should hang out while we're talking about these things, not just staring at the trees that you've already seen from the previous videos. Orison General, for those who don't know, is supposed to be a primary hospital with the health care that's coming in future patches, where you'll literally come in and you'll be checking on your workmates who are wounded, or your crew that have been need worked on. You'll be able to get med pens, which you can already get in the new Orison General. This is one of the few functioning parts of this, and you can already hear where I'm going with this.
Hi, welcome.
So this thing has med pens and oxy pens. In 3. What is it? 15, I believe. 3.15. I believe you'll have the Cure Life medical gun and healing tier 0 and stuff like that, where they'll be able to probably sell the Cure Life medical gun and things like that. But there's not really much for a pharmacy to do right now. In the future, devs have said that there's going to be more medical gameplay where you'll need to have, like, I think it's at least 3 different kinds of drugs, possibly 5, and you will have to know which one to use. And if you don't have the right one, you can kind of sustain an injury that's minor with a different drug, like, and offset its effects. Like, if they got hit in the head, you can give them a certain drug so they won't get that effect where everything looks foggy for a little bit. That's all you can do. But they're going to need real treatment from a real facility, a tier 2 bed at least, or something like that, to really get worked on and get their head fixed a little bit more. You can't just keep shoving, but you definitely won't be able to just keep shoving med pens into them. So that's kind of where we're going and down the line. But right now, that pharmacy is effectively just a placeholder. It's just a place where they can sell those med pens and things like that. And it's not really there. If you look at this section devoted to insurance, it's supposed to be somewhere where you can go get your health insurance sorted out. And that's something else for 3.15 that's at least going to start being iterated, is that you will have to come to an insurance at a major hospital and start rolling through these ideas of health insurance being, if you die or injured on a planet far away, if you have the proper insurance, you can wake up in your HAB and eventually be your persistent HAB in 3.17. Or if you don't have really good insurance, you'll wake up in a hospital bed like this. And if you have no insurance, well, good luck. There'll be some type of way to carry you through, but you definitely won't have your gear and things like that. There is an inference here that if you have good enough insurance, you'll at least be able to show up at a hospital like this and have most, if not all, of your gear in relatively okay condition. As things change, we'll see how that goes. But my second gripe, is that this is not a real hospital yet. It's a placeholder of a placeholder. If you look, you can't go in here. You can grab these little carts, sort of. I forget which end is actually you can even grab. I don't know if it's both ends or if it's even all the carts. But you can grab these. I managed to get it to function before. These scanning carts. Here it is. Um, yeah, you can barely get this to work. The medical bed you can get working better. These right here, you can grip these, and you can physically take this places. Just kind of cool. This is, by the way, that trolley physics we talked about yesterday. And no, people can lay on this, like go, crouch, I should say, but people cannot lay on this yet, unfortunately. You can grab both ends, and you can actually have like a push-pull tug-of-war with this really cool-looking Stryker medical bed. But there's not really much going on here, unfortunately. There's a walker. There's a scanning cart over there that you can... I got working the one time. I managed to pull it around. Doesn't do anything, but it is got really cool details. And then you have the Stryker medical bed there. And then there's like some neat stuff showing you what first aid assets they have on display here. And that's it. I mean, this is an elevator right here. That's what this is actually supposed to be. It's an emergency elevator. So they basically took a bunch of assets and made a little scene inside of an emergency elevator. I guess technically that's fair. It's probably like, a trauma patient would be dragged into there on the bed, and they'd be working on them while the elevator went upstairs to take them to the real operating rooms. But this hospital does not exist yet. You don't go up to operating rooms. You don't get insurance purchased. You don't actually get the medical stuff other than med pens, which is all we have right now because it's not in the game yet. So, we see a little bit. This is, nice little flavor text here about a mission statement for Orison General. A state-of-the-art facility built to the highest standard, achieves the pinnacle of energy efficiency. This hospital is a beacon of inspiration and knowledge in the entirety of the Stanton system. We employ the best doctors and researchers. Our mission is to uphold these standards and even surpass them every day. We prioritize patient safety. That's cool, but it's not a real hospital yet. See these lock symbols on the elevators? Like the normal elevators, not the emergency room ones? And by the way, you can't activate anything in the emergency room ones. This is it. It's just... By the way, you should never look at UVC light. See all this light right here? You should never, ever, ever look at UVC light. I'm just going to assume that the UVC side of it is like up here, and maybe they have different bulbs that just look nice down here. But never, ever, ever look at light that's UVC, especially close up. You should usually have that in an enclosed box of some sort. But anyway, I'm going to leave Orison General. And so just to reiterate, when you come in here, the people at the Welcome Center don't do anything, at least right now. The pharmacy sells med pens and oxy pens, which you can buy anywhere. And that's it. That's all that's in here. There's some really cool parts from machinima type work, because there's a walker hidden behind the Welcome Center, and then over there is the medical bed that I showed you and the scanning carts. So I will give them credit for that. For content creators, it's a bit of a gold mine if you're looking for medical stuff. And if you're looking for a medical setting for your scene, this is a great spot to hit. But for the regular player, and I guess I'll phrase that in this video so it's not technically clickbait, for the regular player, I don't see that much in the Orison General. I see it more of a proof of concept, but unfortunately, you can't even see one full floor of Orison General that's like the actual trauma centers and treatment centers and such. And to be fair, I'm sure if I was a dev listening to this, I'd go, well, that's not fair because there's really nothing there to show, yet. There's no reason to. There's nothing going on. That's understandable, but at the same time, it's not a working healthcare center. That's just... is what it is. This is not an actual number 3, But these I would say the honorable mention goes to all these little nooks and crannies that you can't actually get into. If you've been surfing Reddit or Spectrum and you find those big oof symbol wordings or how did you get here things or you're not supposed to be here type things, a lot of them are in those places, just even better hidden than the one I just went to. And they're everywhere. So you go to these platforms and like there's nothing to do in a lot of places that are hidden away. And okay, I get that some things are going to be like this. This has to be a placeholder. You can do your trade here. So just like anywhere else, you pick your ship and you pick what item you want to buy or sell, and that's it. This has to exist, and it has to be this complicated because there's going to be, in the future, there's going to be hundreds of players buying and selling goods, and this is going to be a huge, huge business place. But those little nooks and crannies, there's too many of them, and they left them open. When you go down that lit up corridor over there, you can see it from here, for goodness sake. You think it's like a platform for the train, or should I say the shuttles. Instead, it's just a platform to nothing. And that can be really disorienting for players. By the way, this one is taking me to the industrial platform. That's where I'm going next to pick on. And I will say, I want to take a minute here to just really point out that they did a great job with Orison. The only reason I'm picking on certain things is because they did such a great job, and so many people have covered that, myself included, that I feel it deserves that devil's advocate attitude and things to make it even better of an experience by picking on the few things they did wrong. Like, I mean, for goodness sake, one of my top things is space whales. So, I mean, come on. When I'm picking on you because you didn't bring out space whales fast enough, you did something right. So, yeah. Finley and Co., they did a great thing. There are 4 platforms that we know of already, aside from the Atlas barges that you see flying around everywhere. There's one barge that you can't... There's one platform you can't get on yet. And there's plenty of other platforms that seem to be detailed, but they're not anything yet. But there's 4 that are named. There's 3 that are usable. We're traveling to the second of the 3 that are actually reachable by shuttle and have stuff going on. And this one, my gripe is actually a pretty interesting one. So if you, Jesus Christ, if you go into the Discovery Center, which is where Chris Roberts himself said that he wanted a visitor center so people could see what was going on, like a factory shop. And I think they nailed this. They did a great job. But I especially like this display where they put a thruster together in pieces. You can actually sit through the entire process of them assembling a thruster. And I know I had a little bit of feedback from one viewer who pointed out sitting through these is probably a bad idea on the videos, so there's something to experience when you get here. But at the same time, I can't help but notice that most of the time people will go to these type of videos because they want to see what content is coming up. It's a happy medium, so I'm not going to spend too much time just staring at everything. I'm more targeting specific things. Okay, the layout of the factory floor is number 3. So if you come in, they point you straight towards the Discovery Center. But the most interesting place here to me, aside from staring at, the picture of the Crusader, is all the way over here, past all these crazy looking foggy things. There's a shop, and I always can't find the damn thing. The shop that actually matters. Also, there's a municipal services? Huh, another trade console. Hello. I wonder if they're going to have intertrade. Hey, this guy looks like Zark.
Something I can help you.
Or should I call, Oliver? He does not sound like Oliver, that's for sure. From Zark Media.
Living the dream.
Alright, goodbye, dude. You do you.
That's all.
So over here, all the way buried behind here, is the real store to me. This is a store that's actually important to people that are actually trade goods people, industrial people. And I feel like this store is going to be missed by so many folks. So I like this clip fest here, and of course the main event over here, the Owl kit. This set of armor, I showed this in the second run through, but the second chapter. But this Owl set is 8,400 UEC for the entire set. Don't get the beacon undersuit unless you really like that weird light color. I don't think it works well with the beacon suit. For the record, if you have subscriber gear, the Pathfinder undersuit looks great with the Arrow kit. But I'll show it through here. This terminal seems to do a better job. This set right here is the same set that they charge 15 USD for on this store online. Baffling. And it is a great set. Carrying capacity 91 KSP because it includes the backpack on the torso. 30% damage reduction, which right now I believe also includes damage from shots. But eventually this will be damage from environmental and like mining lasers exploding, but not from gunfire, and lasers and stuff. Eventually the opposite will be true too, where you will have players that are running around with combat armor on, and they get hit by a mining blast from a rock that explodes, and they're going to take a lot more damage or die because they're not wearing the correct outfit for the conditions. I don't know why the preview's taking its while to do its stream in. But it will. Yes, we do need to talk. But anyway, the Arrow's suit right there is a hidden gem. And I keep forgetting. I think it's Port Tressler. I think it's Tressler. There's another suit. If you don't like the blue and the white, there's an Argo colored one, like orangey yellowish color. That is at, I think, Tressler. It's one of the major stops that is not here, space-wise. And that's another Arrow Grey Cat suit. So there's actually 5 Arrow suits. And I feel like when I first went on the website and I was checking out the spacesuits, they had the black cherry one, which is a really cool looking color. They had the very popular Quicksilver one, which is like that really aluminized one. And then they also have the orange, like, burnt orange one or something, which is awfully close to the Argo colored one. And I know I'm kind of paraphrasing the colors here, but if you are doing it for like a company issued and you want high visibility, the one that's you can buy over in Tressler for 8,400 is a good idea. If you want it for your personal use, this one looks pretty damn good, I gotta say, when it bothers to load. This looks pretty good. And this is 8,400 in-game UEC. This is a full-fledged Arrow kit, the exact same stats, and it's blue and white. And like I said, it looks. I think it looks all right with the Venture undersuit. To be honest, it looks pretty good. Little hints of silver. It's not gonna win any It's not gonna win any games about low vis, but it'd be sneaky. But the suits are pretty nice. Yeah. So once again, back to the honorable mention again. It's cool to like lose yourself Blade Runner style through what I'd picture like the replicant facility building replicants and stuff like that and flying cars, but it looks great. They did a great job. But every time you go down here, you go into these places and there's nothing to actually explore. It's all for show. You know, that's kind of my gripe. It's for show. This is pretty cool. It looks like a factory floor, you know, some type of SCADA architecture or something like that or whatnot. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I've never worked in a factory. But that looks cool. Well, that's technically a lie. I did a few summers helping out with some stuff, but not anything real, and definitely not with some robotic assembly line of any kind. I do gotta say, I gotta give credit where credit's due. I love little Easter eggs like this. If you look down here, it says, due to a large backlog of Kraken Mall mods. It would have been better if they even put Kmart mods. But Crow's Customs, I love the Crow's Customs logo. I love everything about the idea of Crow's Customs. As you all know, I have a Kraken Privateer. I was kind of gang pressed into having my second Kraken be a Kraken Privateer. And I'm suddenly a huge fan, and I hope that turns out pretty good. And I'm back at my store, so now that I know where I'm at, I know I'm on this end of the platform. And by the way, if they had more waypointing pathing, this wouldn't be such a pain. But it is. Like, I mean, there should be like color schemes to different parts of this facility. I think like there should be like colored lights and things like that that really denote different parts a little bit more, but there isn't. So it is what it is. So, like I mentioned, that was number 3. Is that store? It's like a really useful store, and the suit that's associated with that store, the Gray Cat Arl set, which is not just there, but it's an important part. Is hidden away, and it's more focused on this thing over here, which is cool and all. Don't get me wrong, but there ain't no Arl Gray Cat armor suit here. You know, there's this kind of stuff, and also it's a shame that's not a plushie or something or a model you can actually take. I would wager that they're gonna take these and turn these into a model you can buy. It'd be really cool UEC wise to be able to go in and buy a model of that MSR and be able to take that MSR and put it in your persistent hanger in 3.17. That would be pretty cool. Not gonna lie. So this will take me to CloudView Center. This will take me to the spaceport. So credit where credit's due. Again, the design works. That was my own fault. I tried.
The next shuttle is approaching the station. The next shuttle is approaching the station. Last call for passengers.
So my last 2 criticisms of Orison are both with the spaceport.
Shuttle will be departing.
If you notice, a lot of times with these type of videos or discussions, you know, the things people don't mention are just as important as the things people do. I think that Cumulus, the mall, Cirrus the mall, they nailed it. I think that the whole mall area and all the shops that are in such a tight quarters, 2 stories tall, is absolutely the best idea going forward. And I hope to see more shops, areas, and common spaces that are set up like that. I think the New Babbage area wastes a lot of space. And I think it's because they have the space. It's a frozen terraform, you know, mess, really. It's barely even existing. And it's on permafrost. You know, they just plopped a whole bunch of terrain up there. It's a shame it's not 2 stories tall where things are not so spread out. But I think that's a different philosophy, and it does help New Babbage change things over. I don't agree that some folks have argued that the design language of New Babbage and the new facilities at Orison are too alike. And I just got off a flying shuttle, and I look at CloudView Center and all the other systems, like the platforms that are attached, Providence and CloudView, I don't agree. I think that the system they have here is pretty dang different. And I think especially as New Babbage comes into its own, I don't think New Babbage is done yet. Thank you, NPC. That was appreciated. I don't think that New Babbage is done yet. That's a huge city. And it's very spread out. They have a lot of space to work with. They literally only have so many places to work with when it comes to here at Orison. You literally only have certain platforms, and there's other ones that are not on the system. It is what it is. By the way, here's the whales from point 1. Discovery tour would take us out of the August Dunlow spaceport, and we would literally be able to go see the whales in the Stormwell Sanctuary. And judging by this map, it would loop us around the sanctuary, wherever that is, and then fly us back over to Cloudview Center. So that's kind of the deal. They would go around like that. Also, if there would be, that would be an amazing quest. I really hope that's a contract where players can get bounties to defend the whale sanctuary. That would be the greatest thing ever. Like, pirates are trying to steal a whale, and it's like Star Trek The Journey Home levels type stuff. They just gotta save the whales! And there's like these huge battles outside the sanctuary to defend it. That'd be really cool. But anyway, so August Dunlow Spaceport has the hangars, has customs, which doesn't work, has shopping, which it is what it is. You can buy Finley, which, okay, cool. It does not have a working chairman's club. The rental system does work, but it's the same thing as everywhere else, and the commercial flights do not work. But that's just like everywhere else, to be fair. The one thing I am regretting is, so I've seen Tammany & Sons, the municipal services, the self-storage is the actual store. That's the store with the Arrow set. You know, the $15 USD set that just happens to be blue and white instead of the website versions. The Discovery Center, which is the visitor center of the construction factory, and Cousin Crow's, it's closed. I really have not been able to see the Crusader Industries showroom. I'm kind of regretting that. So I'm just recapping everything here. Okay, so let's go to my last 2 points. So you get to the spaceport, and just like every other dang spaceport, they make you go through these like 50 elevator hoops to get around. Navigation is pretty obvious, though. You've been programmed by now to know when there's nothing else to go to on a place, even if NPCs are teleporting 5 feet. Which is kind of cool. You get on the elevators. And for the record, I actually think the look of the style of this place is pretty cool. I love the color scheme to begin with, the blue and the white. And I love the name, the style of it, everything. I don't even know what that's a reference to, but it looks cool. It seems to fit. It feels like a real spaceport that's floating in the sky above a gas giant. I like even how the security's laid back, where my old stomping grounds of Hurston, as you'll see me many play times, you would never see "help us improve, please rate our security's performance," and a kiosk to help you rate the security, and how they're like, dressed like they look like they're ready to go, I don't know, go in a jogging marathon to chase the criminals. I'm not quite sure. He's not even. I don't even think they're carrying pistols or anything. I would assume that there's guys inside a room over there or something that would carry something to defend the place. And then these guys just call them in. But that's a different philosophy, and that's a different style of doing things. Orison may use ships to intercept pirates before they get to these locations. There's a new AI they're working on that's designed to have green zones be able to use missiles as well as their turrets. So that's all things to think about.
Hi, welcome.
That's the same outfit from New Babbage. I recognize that sweater. Yeah, I recognize these sweaters.
Do you need something?
Yes, I do. I'd like to rent a ship, sir. But just like everywhere else.
We just got a few new items in, so make sure to check them out.
Cool. but you're not going to tell me about them. Okay, I'm going to have to use the kiosk. So, okay. The selection in here is pretty alright, considering everything going on. Like, for example, Connie Andromeda will make you money. 3 days with it is not very stressful. And 186,000 UEC, you can do a whole weekend with it, running with your friends. You can generate way more than 186,000 UEC with a Connie Andromeda. Even if you just do it for the day, that's 70k. That's not bad. It's not bad. If you have a friend who's big into mission running, hauling, or in general has a means to be able to make some money, whether even just running a few too many box runs, I mean, even they can splash that and you can all kind of get together. And don't forget, at any time, you can go and by the way, there's also some other things in there that can make you some cash if you don't have that kind of money. Another good option is your 300i series. It's unfortunately the 300i. It's not the 325A. It's not the 350R. It's not fun. It's not a money grinder. But the 300 is not a bad one. You can throw this in the back of your vehicle. You can throw this in the back of your ship. And by the way, it's going 552 UEC. But yeah, that's gonna. I'm trying to avoid not spoiling my points. I'm making you all wait. Okay, so my fourth one is kind of a combined thing here. The Chairman's Club is still not functional, despite it being in game for so long, and this being a brand new location. And then they even put little trinkets underneath here to kind of hint at what it is. I believe that the Chairman's Club, the only thing that's really relevant in the Chairman's Club, aside from the forum to post in, is this stuff in-game. It's an experience, and there's a lot of players that are already up to the Chairman's Club, or it would encourage them to back more, or at the very least, if they do back more, it would reassure them that it's not in vain. I think the Chairman's Club should be in here, and this is where I'm going to differ from some, and it's going to be a little unfair to say this, but I believe there should be a subscriber element to this section of the spaceport. I believe it was a huge miss for, first of all, the Chairman's Club to not be open starting with 3.14. At least in the brand new location, you went all out and designed it and lit it and everything else. At least you could do is throw a little exterior, a little interior in there, and throw it together. And don't tell me you can't, because the Million Mile High Club functions. The door actually works for the Million Mile High Club folks who are allowed in. Would not be that big of a deal to throw in one of these things and put it on the door, or even just make this the door. If this is the employee entrance to the Chairman's Club, just say, look, you have to come over here. Oh no, you have to walk behind the desk and go there. But allow people to use this. And an even bigger miss is something that is not in the game, to be fair, but over here, let's say interplanetary flights. This should have been a subscriber lounge. Not as big as the Chairman's Club, not as cool lit as the Chairman's Club, but somewhere that feels special to them. I believe that these sub-communities are important and we need to embrace them. I'm not saying every single spaceport in the game needs them, but a place as critically large as Orison, that's a brand spanking new facility, that was a huge miss. To not have at least the Chairman's Club running and to have some form of a subscriber lounge. A lot like a business class lounge when you're at the spaceport, where this would be the first class lounge and that would be the business class lounge. That's how I feel. I have both. It is what it is. I don't know. I've heard a lot about this, Orison's free massage and everything. I've heard about this many times. There's little thrusters on the bottom of the spaceport and on the other platforms too. And if you're using a controller with DualShock or any of that kind of stuff like the old days, it will actually vibrate when the thrusters go off. It's only occasionally, and people have been complaining, arguing their controller isn't functioning correctly. They don't know that little bit of trivia. It is worth mentioning. It is a cool little nuance. What the heck's this guy's job? Or sorry, what is her job? What are you doing here? Hello?
Did you enjoy the stunning wonder of Crusader's very
Attention all passengers on flight
Is that like
PTU 3.14.
I don't know. They look like they're doing something important. I don't know what, but
Please stand by as we wait for more
okay.
information.
You do you over there.
Flight T2RS10K.
So, this is another issue I have with the spaceport, is the waste of space. This is, I guess, it's kind of a whimper of a fifth thing to go through, but it is something I'm honestly feeling pretty heavy about this, is that there is a ton of wasted space inside the spaceport. Authorized personnel only. The food location for Whammers is massive, especially when you consider the fact that players will not even... Players are going to come over here. They're going to sprint up. They're going to buy their burger. At most, you'll convince them to talk to the kind person behind the counter.
Nice choice.
And they're going to eat it. If they'll even let... I wonder if they'll let me eat it with the spacesuit on. I'm going to find out. To remove helmet to eat or drink. They're going to stand here with their helmet on, and they're going to complain that their food doesn't work, and then they're going to go post it on Spectrum.
Hi.
You know what? We're just going to run around the burger.
I can help you with.
See if we can give this away.
Be sure to double check flight information on your movie glass.
Look, you look like you've been working all day. So here, have a nice burger. Here. I promise I didn't even start eating it. You can have it. Enjoy it, ma'am. Okay. I feel like good. I feel like my karma has gone up slightly. So there's this place too where there is this like weird Zen garden and then yet another food place. And I'm kind of flip-flopping slightly here. I argued during my first pass-through that these food places, it was nice to have a variety, and it was nice to have them right near the entry point to the spaceport. You can get your food and your drink on, and then, you know, go past this little area where they're organizing the flights, and that for commercial and interplanetary, which, by the way, there's an entire section, that's where the subscriber area should be. There's an interplanetary flight location. How many platforms are there possibly on a gas giant like Crusader? That's pretty exciting, I guess, in one way, but it's not really making sense to me in another. But I guess that's to be determined, you know, what will actually happen with all that. So, yeah, that kind of leaves us in a really weird position here. You know, there is... I feel like two faces to this location. I feel like with all the 600i talk, it deserves to have a 600i to fly around with. I would say that expanding my number 5 to not just the food places take up too much space and it's a wasted space inside this spaceport. I would argue that there's a lot of wasted space that, at least at the moment on Orison, does very little to nothing. And that is unfortunate because it's a beautiful place, but it feels very... It feels like somebody built a beautiful cedar closet. And we have nothing to put in there, that nice clothing, formal clothing to put in there. We have like some, you know, very reasonably priced swim trunks and some undershirts we're trying to put on hangers because we have nowhere else to, you know, like, okay, well, we got to use this thing, so let's just hang all this stuff up. It like doesn't make any sense to hang up, you know. I feel like that's the biggest problem with Orison right now. And I said before, one of my suggestions about Orison was that it should allow javelins and hull Ds and Es to dock. As in, come into the higher atmo, and it will cost a ton of fuel, but they should be allowed to come here. Literally come to this August Dunlow spaceport, or put them on a separate platform if you don't want them near the main platform. And that's the whole reason that this place is exciting. Suddenly it would open the door to a lot more unique experiences for players. And organizations would flock here because they'd say, well, look, we quietly have been amassing Hull Ds or Javelins or some other interesting ships to be the centerpiece of our mission. And that type of mission needs to have the means to use these. So we were planning to live on some space station as our main organizational hub, because we have these big ships that are not supported anywhere else. But if we can suddenly put these ships in a planetary outpost location where literally Crow's Customs is here, for goodness sake, who outfits Krakens, suddenly, yeah, and yes, I know Krakens can go into Atmo. Yeah, very poorly they can, and they call, it's an interesting process, but they can. Yes, I know. But this place is the place that used to birth UEE capital ships. If there's any place that should be able to subvert the whole can't go into atmosphere with the bigger ships, it should be right here. It deserves to be right here. It deserves to be right at this place. And I want to say right away, over and over again, as I've already said a couple times, I do not believe it would destroy the game for them to be able to go here. Sorry, I'm busy talking. And I'm screwing everything up. But you know how in this game, if you screw up enough, you just, what's that line from that movie? Catch Me If You Can. Catch Me If You Can, Christopher Walken. There's two mice in the jar of milk, in the cup of milk, and one petal's enough, turns it into butter, it gets out. The other one doesn't and drowns. You gotta be that second. You gotta be that first mouse, okay? The first mouse, not the second one. It's a life pro tip right there. Be the second mouse. And just keep pedaling when you completely mess up. Go upside down and then gun the boost and see what happens. As long as you see stars when you do it, you're probably gonna be okay. It is test server after all. So okay, so that's basically my 5 for the rundown. I think with the lack of the storm walls is one of the biggest for me. The ranks are really not 1 through 5, but I think the storm walls missing is a big one. The lack of usable space. There's another honorable mention, by the way, for 3.14. Warning, leaving restricted area. That drives me up the freaking wall every time I see it. Anyway. But I'm just picking on Orison for now. I think that Orison is an amazing place, but there is a lot of things that they shouldn't have hyped. Orison General is just here's a proof of concept, here's some props to play with, and here's the first floor of the building. And there's nothing going on there. You can buy some med pens and you can play with some props. I really think Orison General was overhyped. I think that Orison General was overhyped. The storm walls missing was a major problem. The shop that actually has the Aural Grey Cat armor, one of the coolest things of 3.14, a true good-looking industrial armor, is buried in the depths of Providence platform, the industrial platform, and that's a problem to me, especially because it's honestly, I would argue it's the best looking of the Aurals. Okay, maybe it's competitive with Quicksilver. Quicksilver looks good because it's a chameleon, like it reflects so much that it looks good, in any conditions. But still, I think it's a good looking set, and it's at least one of the best looking sets out there. And it's literally, you can buy it with in-game funds. You can't argue with that. That's fantastic. And everybody should know that you have this option available to you. And they don't. A lot of people I've talked to do not realize you don't have to buy the Grey Cat sets on the website unless you like the color scheme, and you have that kind of credit to sit around with. I think that's a major problem. And I am picking on Orison because Orison hid the sets. If that little shop was not off the beaten path, and it was sitting there right next to the other sitting next to the other shop, or if it was available in that other shop, that's the one that literally you're being led to as the discovery slash welcome center for that shop, I would say, okay, I can let, I'm obviously, I wouldn't be picking on it. It's that simple. So I would say that's an important piece to me. I don't know why it sounds like there's so much mechanical noise inside the touring module. I mean, it's loud. It sounds like it's coming from like inside one of these rooms. We'll have to see if there's EMF level 5 going on. Can you give us a sign? Are you a ship bug? Do you live here? Okay, so that's a couple of my major issues that are worth kind of digging through. I think that overall, Orison's going to come along nicely. I stand by what I said, that it's a brand new site. I think that Concierge, what's called the Chairman's Club in game, and a subscriber lounge should have been a major part of the spaceport, and they should have been a focus, like a community hub area where people can enjoy what they're a part of and the subsections they're a part of. And I think even to me that would signal the next step. Just like the space whales, it's not really about the space whales. To me, the Concierge Club in-game Chairman's Club working is a sign of things to come. I see the space whales the same way, where it's a sign of the wildlife, and we can start seeing that AI is coming into the game, and it's in a small enough environment and a small enough numbers that it won't really impact the game too much, as far as I understand how the AI system works and how assets have to be loaded into the game right now before we have a proper entity list and proper caching and all sorts of other server meshing technology, support technologies. So I would say that it's all... I still don't understand why we have this engine noise. It's a just crazy amount of engine noise inside the touring module. But, or why that looks like we're on the ground. This is supposed to be, like, in space. Like, we're supposed to be able to look through here, and it's supposed to look like we're out hovering at thousands of feet in space, like 90,000 kilometers up. Maybe we're secretly in purgatory. The ship crashed, and plot twist, my character's dead, and I'm wandering through what last place I remembered. But here's the infamous crew quarters that's supposed to have little walls that everybody's been saying this needs walls. I actually talked with somebody today that was suggesting to put a sauna in one of these bathrooms, and I gotta say, at this point, I agree. Like, there's just wasted space. But anyway, I see the Chairman's Club and the possibility of a of a subscribers lounge or something to that effect as signs of things to come for sub things. So right now, encouraging people to go into these game supporting groups and clubs would be nice. But even further, taking it a step further, you would have in the future reputation-backed places like that. So people that have made a lot of deliveries, and R&R is a big fan of yours, suddenly when you go to the larger R&R stations, there would be an area for just you to be able to suit up, a place maybe even you spawn into in the future down the line, maybe have free food. These are things that would be nice little mini perks. A place where you don't have to worry about the other hundreds of players on the server. Only other people that have established themselves like you have and have earned it can go to those places. So to me, that's why it's such a major issue. I can see the Chairman's Club and a subscriber lounge or something like that as being signs of the medium size and the larger size of these type of club areas, these perk areas. Maybe even have a mission giver in some of these. And that would tie in nicely with what Tony Z, has been saying about using reputation and universal wide type groups as you gain more reputation with R&R or some other organizations that are going to become more and more important as we get further along, why does that matter? Well, it does matter. It does matter if you suddenly have a legitimate perk. Things cost less because I went through the right process and I earned this right to be able to go to this location. And maybe they fix up my ship for a reduced fee, or they just give me priority. That would be almost as cool to me, you know, if they literally give me as much priority as they give you, but then the person who has all the reputation gets the most priority. If both are all the things are considered equal, I think that's important. Getting weird vibes on this server. Like as if there's another player on here I can't see. So anyway, long story made short, I think there's a lot of lessons we can learn. I think there's a lot of places we can go. I think that Orison is a really cool scenario. I think, speaking of things I can't see, whether they are or they aren't, desyncs are a major concern. I think that desyncs are going to get worse as we get more players, but we need to face these full on. And another, I guess to be fair, it's an honorable mention. I do not want to shut the engine off. I want to hop in the damn seat. If I shut the engine off, that wouldn't be very good, would it? Another honorable mention that is frustrating, to say the least, is that we only have the PTU open to Wave 2 so far. There was a good call made, where we increased waves to Wave 2 instead of just Wave 1. But that's not good enough. When Bayar put out that message, like a call to arms almost, that said, hey, if you see ships that have an issue, if you see players that are the invisible incoming fire from ships and players and people on the ground that you can't see and things like that, okay, that's cool. And then he's like, oh, by the way, include timestamps, like literally have the delays and timestamp delays and such. And I'm like, oh, that's weird, but okay. And then he turns around and doesn't have it set up for the next patch. I thought for sure they'd set up PTU if they're going to stick with PTUs, which of course it made sense with these things going on. They would open up the PTU at least to another wave, like say Wave 3, or even just all PTU to all backers. Like, open the floodgates. If you want desyncs, guess what? You're going to get a lot more if you have a bunch of players, and you're going to get more reports too. The more players you have, the more desyncs, the more reports. The faster we all fix 3.14 live, the faster we all get into 3.14 live, and the easier it is for CIG to pinpoint these desync issues and make a better game for everybody. I was kind of frustrated by that. It was like one of those things where it's like, are we arbitrarily limiting the PTU because of this weird thought of we still want to make testing for free a reward for the community? that has been here a while, or a subscriber, or spent a lot of money, or some combination of the three, or made a lot of reports, or are we making this only up to wave 2 because it is believed that that will help keep getting the reports coming in, or maybe the reports are higher quality in those sections? I don't know what to make of it, honestly. That's the weirdest thing about this whole topic is I just usually I'm not saying I'm like the CIG whisperer. They do make a lot of decisions that are really decisions they make. But and then I step back and I go, oh, okay, they were going that way now. But in this case, I can't help but point out when you're asking for help from the community, and then you're putting it in the places that are community wide, and then I have folks that are reaching out to me and asking how they can help because they can't access the PTU despite trying to follow my guide, and they find out that, oh, they're not in this specific wave. That's a problem. That's a serious problem. You know, if there's anything I could say to CIG, I doubt they watch these or anything, but I would love to say to them to open the floodgates. If you want to find this desync, make the conditions that will make desyncs, and then just open it to everybody. Open the PTU to everybody. Let them experience the joy of Orison and the heck that is these desyncs and hunting down these little monsters. And who knows, maybe we'll even figure out why the Demon Fang combat knife asset is still missing from the game. Because that still makes me laugh. I've seen so many of these dang patches. We're up to by the way, this was filmed on PTU 3.14M. I should have said that at the beginning. It will say it in the description. But, yeah. The list of issues, aside from the desyncs, is pretty small now. I just sit here, though, and I look at the failed builds and things like that are public knowledge, and I look at the desync issues and how they're requesting help without getting that help they need from everybody, and I say, we need to do better, you know, and if you want the community to help, you need to let the community in. And that'll do it for this video. I hope that this kind of I tried to cover the 5 topics as quickly as possible while moving through 3 different platforms, pretty much all of Orison, and then also a few of my issues I'm seeing with 3.14, trying to focus as much as possible on Orison, but it's a little, obviously, a bit of a challenge. That's why I didn't make them part of the ranked, the 1 through 5 list. What do you think? What is your number 1 issue with Orison? Let's try to stick to that. I'm going to make a comment below and ask, you know, that question, and I'd love to actually hear it. And if you don't want to talk about it on here, feel free to reach out to me on Discord. Reminder, I get nothing from the chats on Discord, and pretty much when you post more than once, I don't think it counts anymore in the magical ether. So just remember, I'm not trying to fish for 50 comments, but I genuinely enjoy the conversations. So I welcome them. And yeah, I wish you all a wonderful morning. Take care.